Hello, my name's Jeff. Soon you'll know me as Sigma. I'm going to talk about the Halloween photos. These are from 1974. Uh, this year I dressed as Caesar from Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. My friend Billy dressed as David Crockett. In the in one of the photos, I'm holding a toy musket rifle, pointing it at the camera person, which was my friend Billy's mom. All right, so Jeff L. Voiles is holding a musket rifle in the photograph. Take the first name Jeff, J10 plus E5 plus F6 plus F6 is 27. Break that 27 down to its letter value. Letter value of 27 is 1, which is spelled O-N-E. Middle initial L remains the same. Rearrange the letters in Voiles. Y-O-L-V-E-S. Y-O is Y25 minus O15 is 10, which is J. Add that to the LV to get JLV. ES adds up to 24, which is X. Therefore, Voiles equals JLVX. Musket, split that into Musk and ET. Musk remains Musk. ET is a Katy Perry song featuring Kanye West. Kanye West was a 2020 President of the United States candidate, as was Donald J. Trump. 2026, a honeybee flew to Donald J. Trump and he caught it in his hand. Therefore, we know from that viral video that honeybees fly to Donald J. Trump. Rearrange letters in honeybees: HN, OYES, BE. The HN add up to 22V. OYES remains the same. Letters in B add up to 12, which is L. Rearrange those letters VOYESL to voiles. Honeybees equals voiles. Flies movie starring Jeff Lynne Goldblum. Goldblum does not contain the name of the movie he was in, but Jeff Lynne does. So discard the Goldblum and keep the Jeff Lynne. So therefore, fly equals Jeff Lynne. So honeybees fly equals voiles Jeff Lynne. Therefore, honeybees fly equals Jeff Lynne voiles. All right. Okay. Jeff Lynne voiles musket. All right, Musk. Okay, JLV is going to be changed next. Those JLV adds up to 44. Type 44 with the shift key to get two dollar signs, which can be expressed as a dollar sign followed by the number 2 in parentheses. Dollar sign can represent a dollar bill, or a dollar bill can be represented by a dollar sign. Therefore, the dollar sign followed by the number 2 becomes dollar bill followed by the number 2. Change the word dollar to a dollar sign. Now you get dollar sign bill followed by the number 2. Rearrange those to $2 bill. The word bill, especially when spoken, can be the abbreviation for billion. Therefore, $2 bill can be changed to $2 billion. Therefore, Jeff L. Voiles musket translates to Elon Musk, $2 billion, Jeff Lynne Voiles. So this is a reference to Elon Musk giving me a $2 billion advance with which to create a new empire of industries over a 3-year period, which will be known as the 3-year build. All right, Elon Musk offered Mel Gibson $100 million to remake the Odyssey. All right, so Odyssey would be a Mel Gibson movie. A Mel Gibson movie is conspiracy theory. Conspiracy theory is a Julia Roberts movie. Therefore, Odyssey equals Julia Roberts movie. Julia Roberts movie equals Julia Roberts, or separate the letters in her name to Julia Roberts. J remains the same. UL adds up to 33. Separate and add. 33 equals 3 plus 3 equals 6. 6 letters F. Therefore, UL equals F. IA adds up to 10, which is spelled TEN. Rearrange that to ETN. Roberts remains the same. Therefore, Julia Roberts becomes J remains J. UL becomes F. IA becomes IATN, and Roberts becomes Roberts. Therefore, the final result is JEFTN Roberts. Now apply the Gemini rule to the F. The Gemini rule allows me to make a twin out of one letter in a word. I can only apply it once per word. In this case, I'll apply it to the F and Jeff. Now we get JEFFTN Roberts. Therefore, Julia Roberts translates to Jeff TN Roberts. All right, and Julia Roberts is in a movie called Pelican Brief. In that movie, she watches as Denzel Washington talks to a man named Mr. Voiles on the phone. Therefore, Julia Roberts equals Pelican Brief equals Mr. Voiles. All right, Julia Roberts in the movie Conspiracy Theory. Mel Gibson dresses as a firefighter. That equals firefighter. Firefighter hooks a hose to a fire hydrant. Therefore, Julia Roberts equals fire hydrant. Julia Roberts Conspiracy Theory. Mel Gibson mentions the name Harriman. Julia Roberts played Erin Brockovich after the TVA ash spill. Erin Brockovich made a visit to Roane State College. Therefore, Julia Roberts equals Mr. Voiles, Harriman, fire hydrant, Roane State College. From Julia Roberts, we get Mr. Jeff Voiles, Harriman, Tennessee, Roberts, fire hydrant, and Roane State College. My name is Mr. Voiles. I live in Harriman, Tennessee, on a street called Roberts. In my front yard, there's a fire hydrant. And there's a professor at Roane State College named Professor Michael G. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. In 2012, the professor did a film called The Labyrinth's Architect. If you look in the ending credits of that film, you'll see that Professor Michael G. gave me credit for a musical composition he used. There were 3 teams that used my musical composition in their 2012 24-hour film challenge film. Of the 3, the only one who gave me credit was the professor from Roane State. All right, so when I get the money from when I get the advance from Elon Musk, I'm going to start talking to Roane State about creating a film school to train people to work in the new film industry I'm going to be creating. All right, $100 million offered Mel Gibson. Okay, the person to which Mel Gibson offered $100 million was Mel Gibson. Rearrange the letters of Mel Gibson to LOMIEGBSN. LO remains LO. MI becomes V. EG remains EG. BS becomes U. N remains N. Therefore, Mel Gibson becomes LOVEGUN, which is Love Gun. All right, Love Gun came with a paper handgun. Love Gun cover art by Ken Kelly. Cover art by Ken Kelly is Destroyer. Destroyer inner sleeve first Kiss Army ad. That's reference to the word Army. Army is a homophone for Army. Destroyer equals a song, contains a song called God of Thunder. The God of Thunder was Thor. Thor uses a hammer. Therefore, from Destroyer, the inner sleeve we get Army. From the song God of Thunder, we get Hammer. Therefore, from Destroyer, we get Army Hammer. Mel Gibson equals Army Hammer handgun. Elon hosted a film for free on X. The film starred Army Hammer with a handgun. Elon Musk equals $100 million. Army Hammer handgun. Mel Gibson conspiracy theory. All right, Julia Roberts movie. Julia Roberts translates to Jeff T.N. Roberts. In the movie Pelican Brief, Julia Roberts listens to Denzel Washington talk to a guy named Mr. Voiles on the phone. In conspiracy theory, Mel Gibson mentions fire or Harriman. He also dresses as a firefighter. A firefighter is someone who hooks a hose to a fire hydrant. Julia Roberts movie, Erin Brockovich. Erin Brockovich, the real Erin Brockovich, went to Roane State College after the TVA ash spill. Julia Roberts movie, Mona Lisa Smile. There's a video. One of the people I'm going to invite to be part of my industry is a tarot card reader named Draconic Priestess. Uh, in one of her videos, she wears a T-shirt with Mona Lisa's, Da Vinci's Mona Lisa on it, and she smiles in her video. So by wearing the Mona Lisa shirt while smiling, she created a reference to Mona Lisa's smile, a Julia Roberts movie. So anyway, from Mel Gibson movie, we get Mr. Jeff Foyles, Harriman, Tennessee, Roberts, Fire Hydrant, Run Straight College, Draconic Priestess, Tayro. My name is Mr. Jeff Foyles. I live in Harriman, Tennessee on Roberts Street. There's a fire hydrant in my front yard. A Run State College professor made a film called Labyrinth's Architect back in 2012. My name appears in the credits of that film. I subscribe and watch a tarot card reader named Draconic Priestess. So all this can be derived from Mel Gibson. All right. So let me look at this. If I want to talk about that, no, I can wait on that. I've talked about this already, I think, on another video anyway. Okay, let me look at this. Jeff Foyles, Musket, Dad, Roan, Christmas Lumber, Barbara, Hosiery Mill, Bill. Okay, let me go back. All right, so the person who took this photograph is Billy's mom, Barbara. She was a hosiery mill employee at the time. The white car, the Ford Galaxy, at the time the photo was taken, it belonged to Billy's dad, but Billy's dad later sold it to my dad. So the car in the photograph was owned by both of our dads at different times. In the background, you'll see a white truck parked on Rome Street. Rome translates to Rome, which was an empire. Across the street from the white pickup truck, you'll see Christmas Lumber Company. They sell materials for building things. So, and of course, the musket rifle is in there. So, all right. So Jeff translates to one, which is spelled O-N-E. L remains L. Voiles becomes JLVX. Musk from musket becomes musk. ET is 2020. Is a song containing a contribution from Kanye West, who was the 2020 president of the United States candidate who was not elected. 2020 POTUS candidate who was not elected was Donald J. Trump. From the viral video, we know that honeybees fly to Donald J. Trump, and honeybees fly translates to Voiles Jeff Lynne. All right, Rome translates to Rome, and Rome was an empire. Christmas Lumber Company sells materials for building new buildings. Barbara, let's see. Okay, Barbara lived in the home with two Bills. There was the dad Bill and the son Bill. All right, so dad Bill, dad equals AD&D, and Bill remains the same. AD and the A in AD&D stands for advanced. The D&D can be changed to 44, which with the shift key is $$. Therefore, Barbara, the fact that the one Bill she lived with was the dad of the family, that becomes AD&D Bill, which is advanced $2 Bill. And then, of course, the son Bill. So from Barbara, we get she lived with her son Bill. She lived with the dad Bill, that translates to $2 Bill. Bill can be expanded to billion. It's usually in spoken form instead of written form, but it can stand for billion. So Bill becomes billion. The $2, put $1 in front of each word billion to get billion. Add $1 to $1 to get $2 billion. So through Barbara, I get $2 billion. Now, hosiery mill, that's where she worked. The hosiery mill is no longer that. It's now a hosiery mill lot. So from all of these words here, we get Elon Musk, X, hosiery mill lot, building new buildings, $2 billion advance, Jeff Lynn Voiles, empire. So Elon Musk will buy the old hosiery mill lot where he will build a new X headquarters. This will involve the building of new buildings. He will also give a $2 billion advance to Jeff Lynn Voiles, with which Jeff Lynn Voiles will build a new empire of industries with which to replace the ones that Elon Musk wants destroyed. All right, I want to talk about the film industry real quick. I've already talked about this in another video, but I'll talk about it again. So this is based on $30 million. For the movie Don't Look Up, I think I wrote that. Yeah, Don't Look Up. I don't know why I wrote Don't Look Down, but anyway, Leo, Don't Look Up. He's paid $30 million. He's probably spent a few weeks on a film set somewhere doing that. All right, so Leo probably spent a few weeks earning $30 million. So over here we see how long did it take him to learn? A few weeks for Leo. A brain surgeon, I asked AI how much a brain surgeon makes per year, and it told me $1 million a year. So if that's correct, it would take the brain surgeon 30 years worth of brain surgeries to make $30 million. Same amount of money that Leo made for a few weeks, it would take this brain surgeon 30 years of saving people's lives to make the same amount of money what this asshole made for one film. Walmart worker, if they're making $15 an hour, $40 hours a week, 50 weeks, going to end up with about $30K a year. In order for that Walmart worker to make $30 million, they'd have to work 1,000 years. So a Walmart worker would have to push carts around Walmart shopping for other people for 40 hours a week, every single week for 50 weeks out of the 52 weeks of the year. And they would have to do that for 1,000 years in order to make the amount of money that Leo made in just a few weeks for some crappy ass movie. All right, now if you want to go see Leo's crappy ass movie, let's say Regal Cinema was showing, you're going to pay $14.99 for a ticket, $2 fee for something, and some tax. This is going to cost you $19.33 to see this piece of garbage if it were to come out now as a new movie. So Leo gets paid $30 million, the equivalent of 30 years worth of work, to make this piece of crap, and then it costs you, someone that's struggling to make it paycheck to paycheck, it's going to cost you $20 to see this piece of garbage. All right, let's move on to Brian Johnson. Okay. Brian Johnson's the lead singer of AC/DC. He replaced Bon Scott. There was a period of time in which Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses replaced Brian. All right, so there's three. There's actually been more than three singers, but the three that have been in the band since I've listened to them were Bon Scott, Brian Johnson, and Axl Rose. All right, so Brian Johnson remains Brian Johnson. Axl Rose recorded a Guns N' Roses album called Lies, therefore Axl Rose equals Lies, Bon Scott equals Bon Scott. Therefore Brian Johnson, Axl Rose, Bon Scott equals Brian Johnson Lies, Bon Scott.
Out after a couple of days that I'm just not that good. Malcolm came up to us, I think, on the second day, and he said, "Can you write lyrics?" And I said, "I'll give it a shot." And he said, "Well, here you go." And he gave us a cassette, with these horrible little rooms with a hand bass and a bed and a little desk. And that was it. And we got a machete and a 6-foot fishing spear from the woman because the Tahitian drug dealers in the jungle who were coming down trying to steal everything. So that wasn't a good start. And a yellow legal pad and a pen. And he said, "There you go." And he put it there, and I just heard this riff, and I just wrote. I was a coffin addict then as well, so the first line I wrote down was, She was a fast machine. She kept them out of clean. That was the first thing I could come up with. Best damn woman I ever seen. So, and it just went on from there. We're only there 6 weeks, Dan. I mean, it belies belief that we actually did this album, this monster album in 6 weeks, but the budget...
Brian Johnson recorded an album called For Those About to Rock, We Salute You. The title of the album was based on the phrase For Those About to Die, Rum Salute You. This is a reference to the gladiator fights, Nero Caesar. I guess Nero Caesar was the one at the time. Rome, a person who lives in Roman, or a person who lives in Rome is a Roman. Roman is anagram for Omar N. Omar N is a homophone for Omar N. Rome is derived from Rome, Brian Johnson. Therefore, Brian Johnson equals Omar in Rome. I should, wait a minute. Yeah, Rome. Okay. A man named Omar was in Rome to visit the Harriman Hospital. Okay. There was a guy named Omar who visited the Harriman Hospital to do one of their ghost tours. When Omar went in there, he was wearing a hat with the Ford logo on it. Now, this is going to be very important. Now that I've read about Omar, I kind of remember where I'm at with this. This has been like a few days since I wrote this. All right, Harriman Hospital. Harriman remains Harriman. Omar was wearing a hat with the Ford logo on it. Therefore, Harriman Hospital with Omar in it, wearing his Ford hat equals Harriman Ford. The Harriman Ford, there's no longer a Harriman Ford, but it used to be, when there was one, it used to be called Ford Lincoln Mercury. Ford Lincoln Mercury is a postman character from Kevin Costner's movie The Postman. In the movie, Costner's character has a letter addressed to a man named John Scott. Rearrange the letters in John Scott to JH and on Scott. Subtract the H from the J. J10 minus H8 is 2, which is B. Put that with the on Scott to get Bon Scott. So the John Scott letter from the postman translates to Bon Scott. Therefore, Omar equals Ford, his hat, equals Ford Lincoln Mercury. Ford Lincoln Mercury was a postman from the movie The Postman. In that movie, Costner's postman delivered a letter to a man named John Scott. The name John Scott translates to Bon Scott. Therefore, Omar, through his Ford cap that he's wearing on his head, translates as Bon Scott. All right. So there's another one. This wasn't Omar. This is someone called Paranormal Quest. They did a tour of the hospital. When they got near the geriatric area, the geriatric behavior area, there's some music playing. One song was If You're Happy and You Know It, Clap Your Hands. Okay, that references happy and clapping of hands. Then Omar was in a different time, but it's still the same hospital. Omar represents Bon Scott. Another song that was playing on the Paranormal Quest episode was the song about Knick Knack Paddywhack Give a Dog a Bone. This old man come rolling home or something. Anyway, in the song it says give a dog a bone. So if you give a dog a bone, it can be said that you have given a dog a bone. Giving a dog a bone is a song from the album Back in Black. So from the one song, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands, we get happy and clapping of hands. From Omar's Ford Cab, we get Bon Scott. And from the Knick Knack Paddywhack song, we get a reference to Giving the Dog a Bone, which is a song from Back in Black. Therefore, from two hospital visits, one from Omar and one from Paranormal Quest, we get Happy, Clap Hands, Bon Scott, and a song from Back in Black. And that's basically what I just played. All right, you're going to listen for Happy People, Clapping Hands, and then Bon Scott singing a song from Back in Black, which will be You Shook Me All Night Long. Listen for Happy People and Clapping Hands. There's a happy person. And when the song starts, you'll hear someone clapping on the drum beat. So you can hear it. And then Bon Scott will start singing a song from Back in Black. It'll be You Shook Me All Night Long. Okay, there's a story from my childhood that actually connects to Brian Johnson. When I was a kid, probably maybe three. I could have been four, but probably three. I was my uncle had used a bulldozer to dig a big hole at the end of his property, and when it rained, this hole filled in and created like a pond. Now, before the water got stagnant, we got into the water and played in it a little bit. But after a certain amount of time, the water went bad and we did not get in it. But one day, I was sitting, we were sitting beside the water and we were like making stuff out of the rocks, like little structures and stuff out of the rocks. I was there with my cousin Steve and his friend Tim Johnson. Now, Tim picked up a very large rock. It was pointed like an Indian arrowhead. And he went to throw it into the water, but instead of going to the water, it arced up and came straight down to the top of my head. It pointed in, did. So it kind of like, it created an injury in the top of my head. I had blood pouring down the other side of my head and everything. And I can tell you that my mom never did like this kid, Tim, after that. But I can tell you, I saw his expression when the rock hit my head. I can tell you 100% that he did not mean to hit me with the rock on purpose. But my mom was convinced that he did it on purpose. But I can tell you from having seen the expression on his face, I'm 100% positive that he did not mean to hit me with the rock. But because my mom was convinced he did, she never liked him after that. So anyway, uh, at some point, Tim Johnson's actually got a connection to the story the first time I ever saw Kiss. So the first time I ever saw an image of the rock band Kiss was when my cousin Donnie was wanting to sell his Kiss Alive album to Tim Johnson in order to get some money to buy bullets for his hunting rifle. So as Donnie and Tim were, haggling over what the price was going to be, I was looking at the album. I pulled out the 8-page booklet, looked through all those pictures, and I was looking at the inside of the album cover where there's pictures of letters written by the members of Kiss. That's the part I was looking at when the two of them finally agreed on a price. And then Tim went and got the money. And when he came back, he gave Donnie the money and collected all the parts of the album, took the album home. But anyway, the very first time I ever saw images of the band Kiss was when Donnie sold his Kiss Alive album to Tim Johnson in order to get money to buy bullets for his hunting rifle. All right, so Tim, let's see what we got here. All right, Tim Johnson is a person named Johnson. The rock hit me in the top of the head, which means it came close to causing me a brain injury. So the impact of the rock was very close to my brain, therefore brain can be added. My mother took me to the Harriman Hospital emergency room, so the ER can be added. So we get Johnson's a kid who threw the rock. The thing he threw was a rock. It hit me in the top of the head near my brain. Then my mother took me to the Harriman Hospital emergency room. So we get from brain, we get rearranged letters to make Brian. From Johnson, we get Johnson. From rock, we get rock. And from Harriman Hospital, we get Harriman Hospital. So we get Brian Johnson, rock, Harriman Hospital. Now, when Paranormal Quest went in there, they heard the song about an old man giving a dog a bone. If that were the case, then it could be said that he had given a dog a bone, which would be a rock song by Brian Johnson that was played inside the Harriman Hospital. So that song being played is actually referenced there, right? The song references Giving the Dog a Bone, which is a rock song by Brian Johnson, and the song was playing inside the Harriman Hospital. All right, Tim Johnson, he bought Donnie's album. I was looking at the letter. See, wait a minute. He bought Donnie's album for money, bullet money. So the live album had pictures of Paul Stanley, who has a rose tattoo. So the live album represents roses. The live album was sold by Donnie to buy bullets for guns. Therefore, the live album represents guns. Therefore, the live album represents guns and roses. Now, the live album has letters from Kiss. Letters would be delivered by the postman. The postman delivered a letter named John Smith or John Scott. John Scott translates to Bon Scott. Therefore, Tim Johnson equals Bon Scott. All right, Tim Johnson equals Johnson, rock, head. Johnson remains Johnson, rock remains rock, and my head is where my brain is located. Brian Johnson. Brian, brain becomes Brian. Johnson, rock remains the same. Brian Johnson, rock. Tim Johnson equals Guns N' Roses through the me looking at the picture of Paul Stanley, who has rose tattoos. This first time I had ever seen pictures of Paul Stanley. Donnie was selling the album to get money to buy bullets for guns. So from the images of Paul Stanley and the images of the letters translates to Bon Scott through the postman. Selling the album for bullets, and images of Paul Stanley with his rose tattoo represent Guns N' Roses, whose singer Axl Rose was a lead singer of AC/DC. Brian Johnson rock, that connects to songs that were playing inside the Harriman Library. All right. Brian Johnson, for those about to rock, for those about to die, is a reference to Rome and the Romans. Harriman Hospital equals Rhone, located on Rhone Street. Rhone translates to Rome. Rome is where people who live in Rome Also, metaphorically live in Rome, therefore it makes them Romans. Roman is anagram for Omar N, which is homophone for Omar N. The place where Omar was in was Rome County, therefore Omar in Rome equals Omar in Rome. Devonia Street, that's where one of the entrances to the hospital is. Devonia translates to a demon, also translates to the name demon. I believe the word demon with the A in, I think that might be Greek, but I'm not sure. Queen Street runs down one side of the hospital. The band Queen had an album called A Night at the Races. They had another album called A Day at the Races and A Night at the Opera. That's why I should have wrote. Okay, so Queen had an album called A Night at the Opera and A Day at the Races. Each of these were also movies by the Marx Brothers. One of the Marx Brothers was Harpo. Harpo is accompanied by Oprah Winfrey. Therefore, Queen Street, which interacts with, okay, Queen Street intersects with Devonia. Devonia translates to a demon or demon, the name demon. And Queen Street is a reference to Oprah Winfrey. So the corner of Devonia and Queen, which is the most dangerous spot in the hospital, the geriatric behavior health ward is the dangerous part of the hospital. The other part is, yeah, you'll be all right. Geriatric behavioral health, you better be careful in there. But anyway, the most dangerous part of the hospital is the geriatric behavioral health ward, which if you're outside standing on the corner of Devonia and Queen, you're standing right below the most dangerous part of the hospital. So Devonia translates to a demon whose name is Demon. Queen is a reference to A Night at the Races, or A Night at the Opera and A Day at the Races, which is a reference to the Marx Brothers, which is Harpo. Harpo is a reference to a company by Oprah Winfrey. So from Devonia and Queen, we get a demon, Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey, I don't know if she still has it. She probably does, but I don't know. Oprah Winfrey used to have a high school. It's called finishing school, ages, I think grades 8 through 12. But anyway, 8 through 12 is a high school. It's located in Africa, and she has a magazine called O. So let's look at the name Oprah Winfrey first. Well, let's go with Oprah. Oprah rearranged letters to RP, HAO. RP is RP, HA is I, O is the ring. When DeVay Chase accepted an award for Best Villain in the Ring, she ended her acceptance speech by whispering, "Everyone will suffer." Therefore, Oprah equals RIP, everyone will suffer. Winfrey equals NWY, fire. N is a homophone for N. Flip the W to make an M. Y is Y. Fire is fire. Therefore, Winfrey equals in my fire. Therefore, Oprah Winfrey translates to everyone will suffer in my fire. Africa is where her high school is located. Africa translates the word fire. High school is a reference to my high school, which was Harriman High School. The mascot of Harriman High School was the devil. Therefore, Harriman High School, my high school, Harriman High School, is located at the end of Trenton. Also located at the end of Trenton is Christmas Lumberyard. Christmas Lumberyard represents Christmas. Christmas is when Santa comes to your home. Santa is anagram for Satan. Therefore, Africa High School equals fire, the devil, Satan. Oprah, O magazine equals O. O equals the ring. The ring equals DeVay Chase's acceptance speech, which equals everyone will suffer. O equals the ring. In the movie, people receive a phone call. When you receive a phone call, you say hello. Hello can be divided into hell and O. Hell is hell. O is the ring. The ring is everyone will suffer. Therefore, hello is hell. Everyone will suffer. Oprah was in the movie called Color Purple, as was Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi Goldberg was on Star Trek. On Star Trek, there was a Vulcan named Spock. Vulcan is a word that appears on a manhole cover on Georgia Street next to where my parents used to live. There's now a Dollar General where my parents used to live. If you go on the sidewalk beside a Dollar General, you'll find a manhole cover. On that manhole cover appears the word Vulcan. Vulcan is the god of volcanoes. Volcanoes produce lava, and lava gathers in the lake of fire. Therefore, Oprah equals lake of fire. All right. So what do we get? Okay. So we got from Oprah. We got fire, Satan, the devil. Everyone will suffer in my fire. Hell, everyone will suffer in lake of fire. All right. Puff Daddy arrest predicted in November 1974. So I predicted that Puff Daddy would get arrested when I drew some comic strips way back in November of 1974. So back in November 1974, I was in the fifth grade. Mrs. Cook took the class to the office of Today's News. When we returned to school, she gave us some newspaper print or some newspaper and had us draw our own newspaper. She assigned me to draw comic strips. I drew three of them. So I'm going to talk about the images that were in the comic strips. All right, so here are the images. Couple of dragons. This can either represent dragons in that there's two, or it can represent dragon in that they're both the same dragon. In the middle strip, there's the Wolfman, Frankenstein's monster, the Gill Man from the Creature from the Black Lagoon, and Dracula, the vampire. These are four famous monsters. The third one is a recreation of a Wizard of Id comic strip I had recently read at the time. You can't tell it in my reproduction, but in the original cartoon, the guard and the prisoner are both inside of a dungeon. The prisoner is actually chained to a wall. So let me see what I made of that. Let's see. Okay. All right. 1974 comic strip has a dragon in it. At that time, there was a popular song called Puff the Magic Dragon. Therefore, the dragon can represent Puff. 1974 comic strips, 3 and 1, translate to Dungeons and Dragons, which is AD&D. AD&D is an anagram for dad. Dad can also be called daddy. Therefore, 1947 comic strips equals Puff Daddy. 1947 comic strips, across the street from the side of Harriman Hospital. Across the street from the other side of Harriman Hospital is Chase Drugs. Therefore, 1974 comic strips were done at Today's News, were printed by Today's News, which was across the street from one end of Harriman Hospital. Across the street from the other end of Harriman Hospital is Chase. Therefore, 1974 comic strips equals Chase. 1974 comic strips were printed by Today's News, which is located at Devonia and Queen. Queen is where the bakery was located. The bakery made my birthday cakes, which were always featured in birthday parties. Therefore, 1974 comic strips equals Queen Street, equals bakery, equals birthday cakes, equals birthday party, equals party. Therefore, 1974 comic strips equals party. All right, so we get Puff Daddy, Chase, and Party. Now, on the same night that Puff Daddy invited DeVay Chase to a party, Chase said everyone will suffer into a microphone as Ashton and Puff stood behind her. So, DeVay Chase said everyone will suffer after Ashton Kushner, whatever the fuck his name is, he picked her up in a very inappropriate way and kissed her in a very inappropriate way. And then after that, they showed Puff Daddy asking DeVay Chase if she's coming to the party, the after award show party. And of course, she said yes. So while Puff Daddy and Ashton were standing there with her, Chase said, "Everyone will suffer. This is the fate of these two people. Ashton and Puff, they will both be going to the ninth and most torturous plane upon death." So they're both screwed. There's nothing they could do to save themselves. Puff Daddy, Party, Chase, everyone will suffer. So at the same night that Puff Daddy asked Chase to a party, she said to her, whispered into her microphone, "Everyone will suffer." Puff Daddy at the party, everyone will suffer. So it must have been a really good Puff Daddy party because everyone who was after the after award show party will be suffering. Must have been one hell of a party. Pun intended. 1974 comic strip number 3, A Prisoner in a Cell. Well, guess what? The dragon at the top uh, represents Puff. The comic strips in general, 3 and 1, represent Dungeons and Dragons, which is AD&D, which is Dad, which is Daddy. So we get Puff Daddy and A Prisoner in a Cell, both in the same comic strip. So we get Puff Daddy, Prisoner in a Cell. So Puff Daddy is currently a prisoner in a cell. Uh, there was ink on the bottom of the Wizard of Id. The comic strips were printed at a comic or a newspaper office on Devonia Street. Devonia ends at Christmas. Lumber. Christmas is a holiday. Holiday is sung by Madonna. So from the black ink, we get black, or the black at the bottom of the strip. I don't know if that's from a ripped piece of paper or spilled ink, but it's black either way. At the bottom of the strips, it's black, and Devonia Street translates to Madonna, so we get Black Madonna. We had inks. Um, let's see. All right, so inks is an anagram for skin, so we get skin inks from the fact that there's a lot of black ink at the bottom. So we get Black Madonna and skin inks. Skin inks are tattoos. We get Black Madonna tattoo. All right, so from my 1974 comic strips, we get Puff Daddy invited Chase to a party. Now he's a prisoner in cell, and he and everyone else at that party will suffer. Puff Daddy, who's who's the cause of all this, has or he should have a Black Madonna tattoo. So I hope some of those other assholes also have the Black Madonna tattoo. So we'll know who's going to hell with Puff Daddy. So anyway, all you Black Madonna tattoo people who hanging out with Puff Daddy, enjoy hell. Your tattoo's a marker. All right, 1974 comic strip. 1 and 2. 1 had a dragon in it. 2 is Famous Monsters. A few months later, I bought my first issue of Famous Monsters. It had what I considered to be a dragon on the front. It had Godzilla. Now, since the internet has come along, I've since learned that Godzilla is not a dragon. It's apparently a mutated dinosaur. But all my life, when I was a Godzilla fan and actually enjoyed the comic books and the movies, during that time I thought Godzilla was a dragon. So as far as I'm concerned, and the Butterfly Enigma is concerned, Godzilla is a dragon. All right, so uh, we visited from Harriman Schools. The word Harriman translates to cashmere. I drew a dragon. I drew 4 famous monsters. That dragon, Famous Monsters, represents the Famous Monsters issue I would buy a few months later with a dragon named Godzilla on the cover. So my 1974 comic strips connect Cashmere to Godzilla. Puff Daddy with the Black Madonna tattoo, who invited Chase to a party after the award show, he used music from Kashmir to create a song for the Godzilla soundtrack. All right, and he as in the video for the song "Come with Me," We see P. Diddy falling down past the Coke sign as he says, I see you standing there and cry tears of sorrow. I die. When he's saying about crying tears of sorrow, he's falling past the Coke sign, and you will see that the name Voiles translates to Coke. All right, Voiles is the last name of Jeff Lynne, which contains the word fly, which is be afraid, be very afraid. So from my name, Jeff Lynne Voiles, you get be afraid, be very afraid, Puff Daddy. The reason he should be afraid is because when he dies, he will be going to the ninth plane of hell. Ninth, the most torturous plane of hell. That's why he should be afraid, very afraid. All right, Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath albums were bought for me by my mother, Brenda Ann Voiles. The name Brenda translates to extraterrestrial DNA. The name Brenda also translates to God, therefore, Brenda translates to extraterrestrial God DNA. And translates to NM, that's abbreviation for New Mexico. Voiles translates to 1947 Flying Saucer. All right. The Black Sabbath albums were bought by Brenda Ann Voiles, but they were bought for Jeff Lynne Voiles. The name Jeff, as I've explained in other videos, translates to Jesse Marcel photograph, silver foil balloon. The names Jeff Lynne contain the word fly. I've explained in other videos that the Dixie Chicks Fly album translates to Skinny Bob Aliens. The name Voiles translates to 1947 Flying Saucers, as I've explained. Ozzy, Randy Rhoads was involved in a fatal crash in Florida. Previous night, the band UFO had opened for him. Before the tour, Ozzy had bit the head off of the bird. So from head, we get Roswell. The bird translates to hybrid. Florida reverses is FLA. That reverses to ALF, which stands for alien life form. UFO is a UFO. Fatal crash is fatal crash. So from Ozzy, we get fatal crash. That's Randy Rhoads. Florida, that's where he crashed. UFO was the opening act. The thing that brought everything about was Ozzy biting the head off of the bird. So all these key words translates to Roswell hybrid, alien life form, UFO, fatal crash. So the person who showed up at Ozzy's concert was a hybrid created with DNA taken from a alien life form that crashed in a UFO in Roswell. The crash was a fatal UFO crash. All right, Ozzy used to be in a band called Black Sabbath. The same year I saw Ozzy with Randy Rhoads, I also saw Black Sabbath with Dio. Black Sabbath and Dio have an album called Heaven and Hell, which for some reason I wrote Heaven and Heaven here. So Heaven and Hell. All right, Heaven and Hell. The cover shows an angel holding some cards. The angel is from heaven. The front card on her hand of cards is an ace. All right, so the word heaven translates to Ivan, ace translates to 0135. So the way you change heaven is you add up the HEE, that adds up to 18, separate that. 18 is 1 plus 8 is 9, which is I, and then put that with the VAN to get Ivan. Ace is ACE, which A is 01, C is 3, E is 5, 0135. So from heaven and ace, we get Ivan 0135. Angels are in Holy Bibles. Holy Bibles translates to honeybees. Honeybees translates to voiles. Angels have wings. Wings are used to fly. Fly is a movie starring Jeff Lynne Goldblum. The name of his movie is found not in his last name, but in his first and middle name. So we discard the last name Goldblum and keep the Jeff Lynne. So from Angel, we get Jeff Lynne Voiles. So from Black Sabbath with Dio, we get Jeff Lynne Voiles, Ivan 0135. All right. One of the albums my mom bought for me was We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll. It's a double record set. She got from Columbia House. She got that and also got me Master of Reality from Columbia House. All right. So when my mom bought me the albums, we lived on Trenton Street. Trent Street ends at Christmas Lumberyard. Christmas is the birthday of Jesus. Which equals birthday. My birthday is 620. 620 is FT. FT is foot. On the foot you find the soul. Soul is a homophone for soul. Therefore, Trent Street equals soul. Trent Street, let's see, equals rock and roll. That was my high school nickname. When I was a Blue Devil. Therefore, rock and roll was the high school nickname of Blue Devil Jeff. So devil equals devil, Jeff equals translates to Jesus. Therefore, from rock and roll, we get Blue Devil Jeff. My name is Jeff, and because Harriman High School's mascot is a Blue Devil, I was a Blue Devil during my time as a student there. Therefore, during my time as a high school student, I was Devil Jeff, and Devil Jeff translates to Devil Jesus. During my time as a high school student, my mother bought me an album called We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll. Rock and roll translates to Jesus and devil, therefore, or devil. Therefore, the name of the album translates to We Sold Our Souls for Jesus or the Devil. So this connects to the street. Trent Street ends in one. If you travel Trent Street in one direction, it ends at Christmas Lumberyard. Christmas was the birthday of Jesus. Therefore, Trent Street equals Jesus. Trent Street ends in Harriman High School. Harriman High School mascot was the devil. Therefore, if you travel in that direction, it's the devil. Trent Street equals Jesus and the devil. So Trent Street is a metaphor for life. Like anywhere on Trent Street, you can travel toward Trent Street or away from, or toward the high school. As long as you don't reach the end of the street, at any point you can turn around and start going in the other direction. But if at any point you reach the end of Trent Street, then it's over. That's where it all ends. And whichever end of the street you end on is where you're going to be. So what this means, like in life, you can make mistakes and travel in the wrong direction for a period of time, and then you can change and turn around and travel in the other direction. So what Trent Street's telling you is you can travel in toward Harriman High School down Trent Street for a couple of blocks. Now, if you keep traveling until you reach the end of Trent Street, then that's where you're going to be. But at some point during your walking, you could decide to turn around and start walking back in the direction toward Christmas. By the same way, someone could start off walking in the direction toward Christmas Lumber Company and then decide, to turn around and start walking toward the high school. So what this means is in life, you can make mistakes and be walking in the wrong direction and turn around and start walking in the right direction. You could be walking in the right direction, turn around and start walking in the wrong direction. What matters is where you are when you reach the end of the street, or in other words, the end of your life. If you are at the end of the street where the high school's at, that means you're going to be there for all eternity with the devil. If you're traveling metaphorically in a direction and you reach the end of the street where Christmas Lumberyard's at, then you're going to be spending eternity with Jesus. So it's a metaphor, of course. It's not real. Like Harriman High School's not evil, and Christmas Lumberyard's not holy. They're metaphors. All right. Sabbath. What is Sabbath? Okay. Let's see. All right. Hold on. Okay. When I saw Black Sabbath with Dio, it was on the Mob Rules tour. So before that, Dio had recorded an album with Black Sabbath called Heaven and Hell. All right. So Dio had a solo hit called Mystery. Dio recorded Heaven and Hell. Wait a minute. Dio. Okay. Dio recorded Heaven and Hell with Black Sabbath. The cover art features heavenly angels in that they have white bird wings instead of black bat wings. So we have heavenly angels on the cover of Heaven and Hell. Heavenly angels represent heaven. They're in heaven. Heaven is a song by Warrant. Warrant had a hit song called Cherry Pie. So from Dio had a, hold on a second. Dio had a solo hit called Mystery. Uh, with Black Sabbath, he recorded an album called Heaven and Hell. The cover art features angels from heaven. Heaven is a song by Warren. A song by Warren's Cherry Pie. So from Dio, we get both Mystery and Cherry Pie. All right. So Ozzy was in a movie called Trick or Treat with Gene Simmons. And in the movie, Ozzy played a preacher who preached from Holy Bibles. All right. Gene Simmons appeared on the album Kiss Destroyer, which produced a song called Beth. This is reference to the fact that my name, Jeff Lynn Boyles, translates to Destroyer Beth. Destroyer, the tour for Destroyer was called Spirit of 76. Beth was a 1976 hit song. Spirit of 76 poster that Kiss sold in the in stores during the Destroyer tour featured the band members of Kiss with an American flag. A 1976 hit by Kiss was Calling Dr. Love. So from the American flag, it's a symbol of freedom. Calling Dr. Love, it's a reference to doctor. A doctor is someone who takes care of your health. So from American flag and Calling Dr. Love, the American flag comes from Destroyer. Calling Dr. Love comes from the 1976 album Rock and Roll Over. From the two 1976 Kiss albums, from Destroyer, we get Freedom. From Rock and Roll Over, we get Health. The two together go Freedom Health. Therefore, Gene Simmons equals Freedom Health. Ozzy equals Preacher equals Holy Bibles. Holy Bibles equals honeybees. Honeybees fly to flower in order to gather pollen or nectar or whatever. Honeybees fly to flower. All right. Honeybees translates to oils. Fly translates to Jeff Lynne. Flower is flower. Therefore, Ozzy translates to Jeff Lynne Voiles, Freedom Health Flower, Cherry Pie Mystery. So up until a few months ago, Jeff Lynne Voiles, always bought a strain of flower called Cherry Pie from Freedom Health until they quit selling it. Whenever Jeff Lynne Voiles, would buy Cherry Pie flower from Freedom Health, I would always get some bonus mystery strain flower. So from Ozzy, or from Black Sabbath, I should say, whether it be through Ozzy or Dio, from Black Sabbath, we get a reference to the fact that Jeff Lynne Voiles, used to buy Cherry Pie flower from Freedom Health and used to get free mystery with it. All right. Black Sabbath. Okay, when I was a kid, my mom took me to a haunted house at the Kingston Courthouse. All right, haunted house, Halloween, trick or treat, Ozzy, preacher, Holy Bibles equals honeybees fly flower equals Jeff Lynne Voiles flower. All right, so from my visit to the haunted house, uh, that's a reference. It was Halloween. That's a reference to Trick or Treat, the Ozzy movie in which he plays a preacher with Holy Bibles. Holy Bibles translates to honeybees fly to flower. Honeybees, and then honeybees fly to flower. From honeybees fly to flower, we get Voiles, Jeff Lynne, and flower. At the haunted house, they had a puppet called Dingbat who used to be on the show called Shock Theater. You had a host named Dr. Shock and a puppet named Dingbat. All right, there's a picture of Dr. Shock and Dingbat. So anyway, at the beginning of Shock Theater, they always play the opening riffs to the song Black Sabbath by the band Black Sabbath. So Dr. Shock, Dingbat, and Shock Theater all had a connection to the band Black Sabbath via the playing riffs from the song Black Sabbath. All right. All right. Song Mystery is sung by Dio. Dio's singer of Black Sabbath on the Heaven and Hell album. Heaven and Hell cover art is an angel with an ace, which is Angel Ace. Angel equals Holy Bibles. Holy Bibles equals honeybees fly to flower. Honeybees equals foils. Flower equals flower. Angel equals wings equals fly equals Jeff Lynne Goldblum equals Jeff Lynne. Holy Bibles equals open with words in the beginning. In the beginning is the name of a song by the band Heaven. Heaven is the name of a song by Warrant. The name of a song by Warrant is Cherry Pie. Angel is found in heaven. Heaven is rearranged to Heevan. Hee adds up to 18. Separate and add. 1 plus 8 is 9, which is I. Put that with the VAN to get Ivan. Angel, the angel is holding an ace, which is ACE. A is 01, C is 3, E is 5. Angel, therefore, equals Jeff Lynne Boyles. Jeff Lynne Boyles translates to destroyer Beth. Destroyer had the Freedom of, or the Spirit of 76 tour. American flag on the Freedom of 76 poster represents freedom. Beth was a 1976 hit by Kiss. 1976 hit by Kiss was Calling Dr. Love. Doctor takes care of your health. Therefore, from Mystery, we get Angel, and from Angel, we get Jeff Lynne Boyles, IVAN0135, Cherry Pie Flower, Freedom Health. Jeff Lynne Boyles, IVAN0135, used to buy Cherry Pie Flower from Freedom Health in Harriman. Holy Bibles, equals in the beginning, first words of the Bible. In the beginning is the name of the song by the heavy metal band Heaven. Heaven's the name of the song by Warrant. Warrant had a song called Cherry Pie. Holy Bibles equals honeybees fly flower. Honeybees equals Boyles. Fly equals Jeff Lynne. Flower equals flower. Holy Bibles equals Jeff Lynne Boyles. Cherry Pie flower. Jeff Lynne Boyles translates to Destroyer Beth. Destroyer equals the tour. Equals Spirit 76 tour. Equals poster. Poster featured American flag. American flag is a symbol of freedom. Beth was a 1976 hit song by Kiss. 1976 hit song by Kiss was Calling Dr. Love. Calling Dr. Love references a doctor. The doctor takes care of your health. Therefore, Jeff Lynne Boyles equals Freedom Health. Therefore, from Holy Bibles, we get Jeff Lynne Boyles, Cherry Pie Flower, Freedom Health. Jeff Lynne Boyles used to buy cherry pie flower from a shop called Freedom Health. Faith No More. A honeybee flew to President Donald J. Trump's hand. He trapped it, bee, and then let it crawl around his hand. King Charles was looking on as this happened. Donald J. Trump read a story about Solomon from Holy Bibles. Holy Bibles equals honeybees. Honeybees fly to Ivanka's dad, Donald J. Trump. Honeybees equals Voiles. Fly equals Jeff Lynne. Ivan from Ivanka equals Ivan. KS from Ivanka's is 31, reverse to 1 and 3. 1 is 01, 3 is 3, which is 013. DA adds up to 5. D is 4. 4 with the shift key is a dollar sign. Dollar sign represents a dollar bill. On a dollar bill, you see President of the United States, Washington. Donald J. Trump remains Donald J. Trump. So, from Holy Bibles, we get honeybees fly. Honeybees. From honeybees, we get honeybees fly to Ivanka's dad, Donald J. Trump. Honeybees fly to Ivanka's dad, Donald J. Trump, translates to Jeff Lynne Voiles, IVAN0135, President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, Washington. King Charles looked on as the honeybee arrived. King Charles recently changed his title from Defender of the Faith. That means he's no longer Defender of the Faith. That means he has faith no more. Therefore, King Charles represents faith no more. All right. In the first time I heard the song "Faith No More" was when I went on a double date. I was on a date with Robin, who was friends with Suzette. So me and Robin went on our first double date with Robin and Suzette. We went to a club where a band played "Epic" by Faith No More. Robin had heard the song, and when they got ready to play it, she's like, "Get ready to listen to it. They're going to play it." So before we got there, Robin had been telling me about the song Epic, how great it was, and then she said this band I think is going to play a cover of it. I think she may have went up and asked one of them if they were going to play it or something. I don't know, but somehow we knew that they were supposed to play the song Epic, and they end up playing it. So anyway, Suzette, the first time I heard the word Epic, I rode home in a car being driven by Suzette, owned and being driven by Suzette. Now, years later, I would speak to Suzette in 1996. This was like 1990 that we went to this club and I heard Epic for the first time. Um, in October 1996, I called Suzette. Uh, when I spoke to her, when I called, a Russian person answered the phone. It turned out the Russian woman who answered the phone was a person Suzette had been living in Russia with as part of her college thing she's done. And then the Russian girl that she was living with had come to America and was staying with her. So when I called, I spoke to a Russian, which means I spoke words to a Russian. So by speaking to a Russian, speaking words to a Russian, that connected words in Russian. Uh, Words is also an anagram for sword. So we get Russian words and sword. All right. When I talked to Suzette, I asked her if she was still in the church that she used to belong to. She said no or whatever. But the fact I brought up the church is important because that's a reference to the word pray. Pray is a song by a uh, rapper named Hammer. So by talking to Suzette named about church after speaking to our Russian friend, I connected the word Russian to the word prayer, pray, and pray is by hammer. Therefore, Russian pray equals Russian hammer. All right. So later, I told Suzette I would talk to her ex boyfriend, see if they want to get together and go out and eat or something. So I later ran into the said ex boyfriend on the bus, and I was wearing a White Zombie shirt I had just recently bought from a store called Media Play. And when the ex boyfriend saw the White Zombie shirt, he'd mentioned to me that he had gotten White Zombie to sign. He had a glow in the dark copy of La Sexorcisto, and that he had taken the album when they were playing at Bogarts and got everyone in the band to sign it. But he specifically talked about the album, how it had a glow in the dark record, and how he'd gotten all the members to sign it. So the thing that had prompted the ex boyfriend to talk uh, about the autographed album he was seeing the White Zombie T-shirt I was wearing. So on this T-shirt, there were two original members and two non-original members. The two original members were Sean and Rob. Sean is skinny, or at least she was then. Rob can be expanded to Robert, which could be shortened to Bob. Therefore, Sean and Robert become Skinny and Bob, which is Skinny Bob. Two non-original members were the drummer and the guitarist. Now, the drummer on the shirt that I was wearing was actually John, but the drummer on the album that the ex-boyfriend was talking about was Ivan. So his referencing that particular album in reference to my T-shirt connected the name Ivan, White Zombie drummer. So White Zombie drummer represents Ivan. The guitar player on my shirt was wearing a Kiss shirt. The member of Kiss closest to the Kiss logo was Ace. Ace translates to 0135, so Ivan Ace becomes Ivan 0135. So the T-shirt I was wearing that the ex-boyfriend began talking about translated to Skinny Bob Ivan 0135. Uh, he had mentioned my phone call to Suzette. That phone call involved me speaking words to a Russian woman, which translates to Russian words and sword. Me asking Suzette about her church was a reference to pray, which is hammer. So the key words I get from my conversation with Suzette was from her friend, Russian. fact, I spoke words to her Russian friend. It's Russian words. Words is anagram for sword. I asked her about the church, which is a reference to pray, which was a reference to hammer. Uh, Later, Suzette's ex-boyfriend mentioned my white zombie shirt, which in turn translates to Skinny Bob IVAN0135. So my final phone conversation with Suzette translates to Skinny Bob IVAN0135, Russian words, sword, and hammer. Now, at the beginning of the IVAN0135 Skinny Bob video, you'll notice there has been a Russian badge added from the from a Roger Moore KGB UFO DVD. So this badge from the Roger Moore DVD was added to the Skinny Bob footage. It has an image of a hammer, a sword. It has Russian words, and then the video has Skinny Bob, and it's uploaded under Ivan0135. So a lot of the details from the Ivan0135 video and having that Russian badge added to it after the fact. See, the Russian badge is actually a coded message. It's not what people assume it is. People assume it just means it's Russian. All right, Faith No More. All right, I got all that. All right. Elon Musk said that he wanted to destroy Hollywood using AI. All right, I'm a Gemini named Jeff who used to watch a show called Core 10,000 BC on Saturday mornings as a kid. Gemini Jeff is Jeff twins. Jeff twins are Jeff Jeff. Jeff adds up to 27. 27 minus 26 equals one letter value. One is A. Jeff equals 27. Separate and add. 27 is 2 plus 7 equals 9. 9 is I. Therefore, Jeff equals I. Therefore, Jeff equals AI. Korg equals anagram for Grok. Therefore, Gemini Jeff Korg equals AI Grok. Jeff L. Voiles translates to destroyer. Destroyer was released on Casablanca Records. The artwork for the label shows a movie set. Casablanca was a Hollywood movie. The movie set, which was made on a movie set similar to the one that's on the Casablanca Records artwork. Therefore, Destroyer equals Casablanca equals Hollywood. Destroyer equals Casablanca equals a record label equals a music industry. Destroyer opens with the news reporter giving a news report. That represents the news media. Therefore, Jeff L. Voiles translates to Hollywood, music industry, news industry, destroyer. So this marks me as someone who is going to destroy Hollywood, he's going to destroy the music industry, and who's going to destroy the news industry. All right. Jeff L. Voiles translates to destroyer. The opening track on Destroyer is Detroit Rock City. Detroit Rock City is the name of a movie. On the movie poster, there's a parody of Farrah from Farrah's 1976 red bathing suit poster. Farrah in 1976 was married to Lee Majors. Lee Majors in 1976 was on a show called $6 Million Man. On $6 Million Man, his boss was Oscar Goldman. Oscar Goldman is an anagram for Goldman Oscar. Therefore, Jeff L. Voiles equals Goldman Oscar Destroyer. Jeff L. Voiles equals news industry, music industry, Hollywood, and Goldman Oscar Destroyer, AI Grok. Freedom Health. All right. Jeff Lynn Voiles translates to Destroyer Beth. Destroyer had the Spirit of 76 tour. The poster for that tour, which was on sale in stores, featured an American flag. The American flag is a symbol of freedom. Beth was a 1976 hit by Kiss. 1976 hit by Kiss is Calling Dr. Love. A doctor takes care of your health. Therefore, Destroyer Beth translate to Freedom Health. Freedom Health sells flour. At Freedom Health, I buy flour. I used to buy cherry pie flour, and I would give my phone number, and then I would get some free mystery flour to go with it. So these are all keywords. All right, cherry pie was what I used to buy when they sold it. Phone number, I'd always have to give them my phone number so they could look up my account. and I'd always get some mystery strain of flower to go free as a bonus. So what I paid for was Cherry Pie. That's a hit song by Warrant. Hit song by Warrant is Heaven. Phone number. When I someone answers, if I answer my phone, I say hello, which is hell and O. Hell equals hell. O is the ring. The ring is DeVay Chase. DeVay Chase's MTV award speech ended with her whispering, "Everyone will suffer." Therefore, phone number equals hell. Everyone will suffer. Mystery is sung by Dio. Dio's the lead singer of Black Sabbath, who had an album called Heaven and Hell. Therefore, Cherry Pie, phone number, and mystery equals heaven, hell, everyone will suffer, heaven and hell. Freedom Health, uh, Walker. Okay, Freedom Health. Okay, Freedom Health's where I buy flour. Flour is the name of the street in Cincinnati where I lived from October to December of 1996. Flower Street in Cincinnati ends at a street named Trenton. That connects ends to Trenton. Trenton in Harriman, Tennessee, where I live now, Trenton ends at Christmas Lumberyard. Christmas Lumberyard in turn ends at the Lawn Me Bridge. The Lawn Me Bridge in turn ends at Walker Street. Walker Street in turn ends at AutoZone. Therefore, Freedom Health equals Walker AutoZone. Walker equals Pantera video featuring Dimebag Darrell. Uh, Dimebag Darrell has a tattoo of Ace Frehley's solo album cover. Therefore, Dimebag Walk equals Dimebag Ace. Dimebag is a bag of weed. Therefore, a bag of weed is also a bag of flour. Therefore, Dimebag equals a bag of flour. Ace tattoo equals Ace Frehley's solo album, which connects back to Dimebag. ER translates to Voil. So from Walker, we get Bag of Flour, Ace Frehley solo album. From ER, we get Voiles. From AutoZone, we get Ozone, song by Ace Frehley. So we get Ace Frehley solo album, Ozone, Voiles. On the song Ozone, Ace Frehley sings, "I'm the kind of guy who likes getting high." So, more Freedom Health, Freedom Health. Honeybees. Okay, Holy Bibles translates to honeybees. Honeybees fly to flower. Honeybees equals Voiles. Fly equals Jeff Lynne. Flower equals Cherry Pie. Warrant song equals Heaven. Therefore, honeybees fly. Flower equals Jeff Lynne. Voiles Heaven. Okay, Black Sabbath, Heaven, Hell cover art. Angel, Ace card. Angel equals Heaven, equals Warrant, equals Cherry Pie. Angel equals Holy Bibles, equals honeybees fly to flower. Honeybees equals foils, fly equals Jeff Lynne, flower equals flower. Angel equals bird wings, equals heaven. Wait, an angel with bird wings is an angel from heaven. Heaven translates to Ivan. Angel holding an ace equals ace, which is 0135. Angel holding an ace equals the song Ozone equals I'm the kind of guy who likes getting high. Therefore, Black Sabbath, Heaven, Hell equals Jeff Lynne Boyles, Ivan 0135. Cherry Pie Flower, I'm the kind of guy who likes getting high. Because I, Jeff Lynne Boyles, am the kind of guy who likes getting high, I used to buy Cherry Pie Flower. Freedom Health Star Wars. Okay, Freedom Health is located on Rome Street. Rome translates to Rome. That's the Empire. There's a in front of Freedom Health's front door. There's a wall beside it. Beside that wall, on that wall is painted the word tattoo. In downtown Harriman, across from the library, there's a tattoo shop called Tattoo by Brian. They used to have a Yellow Pages ad, and the Yellow Pages ad was a picture of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and beside that was a tattoo of Obi-Wan created from the photograph. So tattoo represents Obi-Wan Kenobi. So from the name Jeffrey, we get the word Ray. Ray is the name of a Jedi played by an actress named Daisy. Therefore, Ray equals Jedi Daisy, which Daisy is a flower. Therefore, Jedi Daisy equals Jedi flower. Therefore, Jeffrey Lynn Voiles equals uh, Jeff Lynn Voiles, and then the Ray equals uh, Jedi flower. All right, two types of flower they sell there are Death Star and Skywalker. Therefore, Jeff Freeland Boyles equals Jedi, Skywalker, and Death Star. Jeff Lynn Boyles, use a spice grinder to grind up my flour from Freedom Health. The spice grinder I have is shaped like Darth Vader. It actually looks more like the Stewie Darth Vader than the Darth Vader, real Darth Vader, but it's supposed to be Darth Vader. I don't think it's supposed to be the Stewie version. All right. When they ask me my phone number, they're asking for a phone number associated with an Android phone. Contained within Android is the word droid. So from Freedom Health, I get Jedi Skywalker, Droid, the Empire, Death Star, Darth Vader. So at the end of the movie Star Wars, there's a Jedi named Skywalker who has a droid named R2D2 and his X-wing fighter, and he's flying down a trench trying to destroy the Death Star and the Empire, which belongs to the Empire, and he's being followed by Darth Vader. So all these keywords associated with Freedom Health are also associated with the end of the movie Star Wars. All right, this talks about $100 million. Elon offered Mel Gibson. All right, I just wanted to go over. Got through this as best I could. It's been a while since I wrote it, so I was kind of figuring it out as I went what I wrote. But anyway, that's a kind of a little walk through, talk through of that collection of notes that I wrote in the last couple of days. So that's it for now.